One review. Book one was allowed the books that I read for the last 40 years, and today I have my special guest. She is expert sleep solutions from a sleep coach, mama four, and a chaos timer. None other than Miss Phyllis King. Welcome, Miss Phyllis. I'm Book One Review, and can you please introduce
Thanks,
more?
Daniel.
Yes,
Hi, hey, thanks so much for having me, Daniel. My name is Phyllis King. I am a mom of four. I am a certified pediatric sleep consultant. I also am a former kindergarten teacher and school social worker, and I ran a daycare for 13 years. So I have a lot of experience in tiny humans and supporting families. So, and I got into, sleep consulting because I'm very passionate about helping families get their children the sleep that they need for proper growth and development.
yes, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the Miss Phyllis. Yes, thank you. And today let's talk about the role of consistency is sleeping training. Beyond just a following plan, how will you define a psychological role of consistency in sleeping training? Is it more about building trust, establishing predictability, or something else for the child?
It's all of it, Daniel. It's all of it. Consistency plays such a big role in everything. Um, and just to backtrack a little bit, when my children are under the age of 5. Now they're not; they're in college. But at the time, I had four under 5, and my first two were terrible sleepers, and I was just delirious. And then I woke up one day and I said to myself, why am I not leaning into what I know as an educator? I'm highly educated in young children. And why am I not using the knowledge that I already have to get this under control? So I got them into a really consistent pattern, and I worked very hard at it, and they became amazing sleepers. And then my next two kids were also great sleepers. So consistency is so important because little people thrive on consistency. They need to know what's coming and what's coming next. And a baby as young as 3 months old can start to identify the components of their routine if those parents have been implementing a consistent routine from birth. Now, that doesn't mean sleep training, it just means that what you're doing with your baby, your infant, your newborn has been consistent since birth. If you follow the same routine every day, by 3 months, a 3 month old can start to identify the components of their routine. So, consistency is very powerful. And little people need to know what's happening next. Toddlers need to know what's coming next because that's how they control their world and their environment. If children don't know what's coming next, it's random and it's confusing and it sends mixed messages to children. So consistency is, it's about predictability. It's about knowing what comes next. It's about giving your child some control of what's happening in their world so that they know what to anticipate. They thrive on routine. And it is also trust building like you touched on. When kids know what's coming next, they can rely on their adult, their caregiver, their parent. When they know what's happening next and the next thing that they are expecting is what's happening, that's where trust begins. That's where trust is established. So, yes, it's all of those things, Daniel.
Indeed, consistency is the key for everything. In your
Yes.
experience, what is the most common way well meaning parents unintentionally break consistency, and what is the single most impactful adjustment they can make?
So, the thing I work with the most, with parents is, parents get exhausted and they'll call me to help them, fix sleep because they have taught their children a certain way to go to sleep. Now, remember that when a baby comes into the world, they're a baby, right? They know nothing. All they know is what we teach them, right? So if you teach somebody that, this is a banana, This is
Hmm.
a banana your whole life. You're gonna see this coffee cup and these are my dogs, and you're gonna say, "Oh, that's a banana." Not because you don't know, because that's what you've been taught. If you're taught that that's a banana, then that's a banana as far as you're concerned. Babies only
Yes.
know what we teach them. So if you have taught your child that they can only go to sleep if they are being rocked or if they have a bottle in their mouth or they're being nursed, if you teach them those things, then they don't know how to go to sleep on their own when they wake up in the night. So if you don't teach them how to go to sleep like from an awake state, then they don't know how to do it. And that's not their fault. It's just that they haven't been taught. So that is like the biggest thing that I see. That's parents will come to me and they'll say, I don't understand why my baby is waking up in the middle of the night and can't go back to sleep. Well, it's because they've been taught I need a bottle or I need a breast or I need to be rocked or I need to be driven in the car. They only know what we teach them. So that is really the biggest thing is, you know, replacing habits and replacing them with habits that support independent sleep. That's the biggest thing that I see.
Miss Phyllis, how should the parents handle inevitable disruptions like illness, travel, or nightmare without feeling they undone all the progress? Is there a protocol of getting back on track?
Yeah, getting back on track. We just came off the holiday season, Daniel. So this was like a big question, going right into the new year and after the holidays. So many parents reach out and they're like, sleep went sideways because holiday distractions. Kids are off their routines and their schedules. They're going to relatives' houses and holiday parties, and there's cousins and chaos and cookies. And, it's just the holiday season and it's fun. And everybody wants to do that. And that's fine. There's
Hmm.
nothing wrong with that. People are traveling over the holidays. And, sleep is never going to be the same when you're not in your own home. You're in a hotel or an Airbnb. Things tend to go sideways. What I say to parents when you come back, once it's over, right, whatever the disruption is, illness is, another sleep disruptor. You do what you got to do to get through that time. Um, and then once that's over, get right back into your routine. Your children will learn. It's not going to happen immediately because, I remind parents all the time babies aren't robots. They're just babies, and toddlers are toddlers. They're just children. They're not robots. It will take some time, it might take some time, but you can get back into solid sleep and habits by just getting back into your routine. Recently, a mom, a former client, reached out to me. They had gone on a family vacation. The baby wasn't sleeping. We had slept trained her, months ago. The baby wasn't sleeping in the hotel crib, had a hard time. So mom was bringing her in the bed with her, sleeping in the bed with her. Now they get home from the vacation and the baby wants to be back in the bed. And the mom called me and she said, what do I do? And I said, get back on your routine, put her back in the crib and teach her, reteach her what we already taught her. She'll remember. And she did. It took a few nights. It took, up to a week for that baby to get reacclimated. But once that mom was consistent in, getting back to the home routine, the baby just remembered what to do and now she's sleeping again.
Hmm.
Like, just get
Yes.
back on your routine. That's it. It's just, it's like if you're on a diet, Daniel, like, you know, let's say you go to a party and eat the cake and you have an extra dessert or, you eat something that you wouldn't normally eat that's not normally on your food plan. You don't you don't just throw out your whole plan and say, "All right, I'm done with that." You get back on track. And so it's the same thing. Anytime you derail, just get back on track.
Back on track, people.
On
So
track,
consistency
but it's hard.
versus rigidity. Yes, it's hard. So
It's
where is the
hard.
line? Where is the line between being healthy, consistent, and being rigid at the point of ignoring a child's genuine need? What are the signs should parents look for?
Well, when I'm working with parents, I never encourage them to ignore their child, right? There's always going to be a response from the parent. So, we're looking at, when we're talking about sleep training and, in general sleeping, um, babies will cry. Crying is normal. It's communication. It's how you respond to that crying that sets the tone and tells your baby, what's the next thing to do. Um, we always want to respond to a baby or a toddler. We don't want to, just leave them in a room to cry it out all night. That's not what we do. But I do teach parents how to respond. And I teach them how to listen to the crying if that child is crying, because crying is communication. And when you can distinguish between the cries, and the I'm hungry cry, or the I'm in pain cry, or the I'm just mad at you cry, you can respond appropriately. And so that's the key. Like, I really encourage parents to listen more than they act. Listen first, and then once we know what kind of communication that baby is giving us, then we can respond appropriately.
Okay, so Miss Phyllis,
Yes, sir.
when two parents or caregivers are involved, how critical is absolute uniformity in their responses? And what is the best strategy for getting on the same page before starting?
They really do need to be on the same page. I always encourage both parents to be on the same page. And if one cannot be, then that one needs to step aside and let the parent who is committed to the work do the work to get the result. Um, I frequently work with, parents who maybe, the mom might be home on maternity leave, or a stay-at-home mom, and the dad has to get up for work. So their agreement is that the mom's just going to handle this and the dad's just going to go to sleep because he's got to get up in the morning, where, the mom just doesn't have to anywhere to go. So she's going to take the brunt and be up, dealing with the child. That happens a lot. I do love it when both parents are on the same page. I love it when I can work with a family where both parents want to be involved. They're both communicating with me throughout the day. Both parents are, hearing the feedback. They're learning about how to handle the next disruption, or the next wake up, or the next child's fighting a nap, or getting up in the middle of the night and walking out of their bedroom. I love it when parents can be on the same page. I think it shows the child that your parents are together in this. It's teamwork. It shows children that their parents are on the same page. I love that. I don't always get that, but I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I have parents who are, kind of fighting the training. At one point, I had to fire a dad. I had to, honestly, I did. I had to say to him, I had to, get on a conversation with him, and I had to say, listen, your wife is working really, really hard to fix your toddler's sleep. They had a toddler, an almost 3-year old. Was just not staying in bed all night, fighting sleep, negotiating, stalling. And I said, your wife is working very, very hard to fix this problem and to teach your daughter healthy sleep habits so that she can get proper sleep for her growth and development. And you are impeding the process. When you go in there at night and you give in to her stalls and her negotiations and the stall tactics, you are unraveling all the hard work that your wife has been doing. And she's made an investment in time and money to fix this, and she's doing really well. So you have two choices, Dad. I said, you can get on board. You can
Um,
get on board and you can support your wife and, support the goals of getting your little girl to sleep properly. Or you need to get out of the bedroom. You need to go downstairs in the kitchen, go out to your car, go take a walk, go take a drive somewhere, like, go get a cup of coffee. I don't care where you go or what you do, but you got to get out of the bedroom area because you are disrupting the process. So you got two choices. And he said, okay. And he left. He didn't leave. He didn't leave the wife. He chose to leave the bedroom area because he knew that he was going to disrupt the process. He couldn't help himself. He wanted
Hmm.
to go in and rescue his little girl. Every time, the little girl would say, "Daddy, rub my back again. Daddy, I need more water. Daddy, I need," and he was buying right in. And so, look, the guy knew his limits, right? So I got to give him credit for knowing his limits and choosing the choice that was going to be in the best interest of his child and his exhausted wife. So he did. He left, and the mom finished up without him, and it worked out fine because the kid still got what she needed. She turned out to be a great sleeper, and it's a year and a half later. I'm still in communication with the mom. She checks in with me frequently, and the little girl is still doing great. So that worked out well.
Very awesome, Miss Phyllis. The 80-20 rule. Could you apply the Pareto principles here? Is 80%
Mhm.
consistency enough to see the result, or does the 20% of consistency completely derail the process?
Well, 80-20, the Pareto principle, I apply this a lot. And a lot of my clients will ask me, like, so when I'm working with a client, I ask them for a 2-week block of time where we are uninterrupted. We don't have any disruptions on the calendar. So there's no events coming up. There's no dropping the child off at grandma's overnight. There's not going to be anything that's going to impede our progress because we want to be very consistent for that 2 weeks. And parents will say to me, like, am I always going to be trapped for these naps and locked into this bedtime? And for the most part, the answer is yes, because we do want our kids on a consistent routine. But the short answer is yes, but the long answer is no. Because once your child has established really solid sleep and they know what to do and they can get themselves to sleep and back to sleep independently in the night, then you can apply the 80-20 principle. And what that means is that, if 80% of the time you're consistent and your child's routines are solid and you're prioritizing sleep, then you know what? The other 20%, sometimes you got to be flexible because this is life. We can't always be home. Family events happen, things happen, kids get sick, emergencies happen, or there's just fun stuff and you just want to go do it. It could be grandma's birthday party. You don't want to miss that because your child needs to be in bed by 7. You don't want to miss fun stuff because it interferes with nap time. So, sometimes you can just be super flexible and then you just get back on track and correct the next day. And when you do that, your kids are fine.
Hmm. Definitely. So, Miss Phyllis, as a sleep coach, what are your short-term and long-term goals?
As a coach personally,
Yes,
um,
please.
my short-term goals are, to help as many families as I can, um, you know, and get clients, keep my book filled with clients. It Helping families really lights me up. It's such satisfying work. So I always want to have clients on my books. I always want to be connecting with other humans. I do work virtually, which is wonderful because I can work from anywhere at any time. But I also love the human connection part of the work that I do. So it's a great balance because I can work from anywhere, but I also get to connect with humans. And that part I love. I love when a mom says to me, like, this was life changing. Like, I had no idea that I could feel so much better from sleeping. Or, a dad says to me, like, I have a client now on the books and that he's been carrying the baby around for sleep. And, you know, we've taught him how to sleep in his crib. And we've only been together since Friday. So it's today's Tuesday. So, we're short in. We're not in a long time. Baby's taking naps, 2 naps a day in the crib. And the dad said to me, I can't believe how great my shoulder feels. My shoulder was hurting from carrying him because he's a big boy, from carrying him around for nap time. And I can't believe, like, my shoulder's getting a break and I feel better. I love to hear the transformation that my families make. So, short term, I just want to help as many families as I can. I want everyone to know that they can be helped and that it's possible to have good sleep without leaving your baby to cry all night. Um, because that's not what I do. I use responsive methods and I teach parents skills. I don't just say, put your baby in the room and leave and let your baby cry all night, you don't need to pay me for that. What you're paying for is coaching and me teaching you the skills and teaching you about your child. So that I love. So short term, I want to keep my calendar, filled all the time. Long term, as a sleep coach, I would love to develop maybe some courses, and do more in-person workshops in the field with groups of parents. I do that now. I am the visiting sleep expert at the New Mom School near where I live. And I do go in frequently and I teach classes to new moms about sleep. I would love to do more work like that where I'm in front of groups of parents live doing workshops and trainings, because I do, as much as I love the virtual aspect of work, I do love that like one-on-one face-to-face connection. So long term, I would like to grow my business, into something that I could, you know, be doing group work with, group workshops, with a live audience. So that would be fun.
Well, good luck to your goals, Miss Phyllis, and looking forward for more success. And what will
Thank
be
you.
a piece of advice for those people that don't want to be a coach like you?
Well, I mean, if you want to be a coach like me, I do have some advice. There are several different training programs out there. I do suggest that you become certified, because there are lots of people on the internet who read a lot of sleep books or helped their friends and call themselves sleep coaches. Um, I would, I would caution anyone looking for sleep help to, speak to uh, coaches who are certified, because we do go through a lengthy education and process. There is a science to sleep. It's more than just, oh, I got my kid to sleep and I taught my neighbor's kid how to sleep. There's a lot more involved. So, first off, I would say get certified. If you're looking to become a sleep coach, get certified. Um, the program that I use, and I'm certified through the Center for Pediatric Sleep Management. I loved my program because, unlike others, it also includes the business building component. And some programs don't. They'll teach you how to be a sleep coach and about the sleep, but then the business end of it, you're kind of left to your own devices to figure that out. And I don't have a business background. I have a background in education, so I don't know anything about business, but I do now. I didn't when I started this, and I'm not gonna lie, Daniel, like, when I started my business, I
Hmm.
didn't realize how intricate the business end of my business would be. I thought, I have tons of kid experience, I'm certified, I'm really good at what I do. I mean, for 13 years, I ran a daycare. I got other people's kids sleeping and, every day. Um, and I am really good at what I do, but that's not enough. You also need to know the business end. So if someone is looking to become a sleep consultant, I would recommend, looking for a program that also teaches the business end. And if anybody is, interested, reach out to me because I can answer a million questions about that. But yeah, that's what I would tell anybody who wants to be a sleep coach. Also, it's super fulfilling. So if you love supporting families and watching other families like just light up because they're finally resting properly, like this is great work.
Well, thank you for that. Good empowerment advice, Miss Phyllis. And can you please recommend a book of books that influence your journey?
Yes, I have. I have a few that I really love and refer to frequently. But I have a couple that I really love to recommend. The first one for moms, new moms, for the first 6 months is this one, Moms on Call.
Moms on call.
Moms on Call. This one is great because it is literally a handbook for new moms. So if you're a brand new mom, inexperienced, or like if you are going to a baby shower, for a first time mom, this is a great book because it's written by two moms, and it tells you everything you need to know. It's like literally the handbook of like how to give your baby a bath and cut his nails and feeding them and how much they need to feed and how much they need to sleep and what does a typical day look like. I mean, it really just it answers all the basic questions about newborn baby care. So this is a great start and it's right here. This is one of my faves for brand new moms. And then the other one, this one I love because, and I'm going to tell you why. Sleep training isn't just about sleep. In fact, so little of it has to do with sleep, actual sleep. With infants, there's a lot of science in sleep. But when I'm working with toddlers, Daniel,
Hmm.
particularly toddlers and big kids, has very little to do with sleep. It has all to do with how your child behaves, reacts, what is developmentally normal, and parenting. So it's really more it flips once, kids get out of the infant stage and they're toddlers, then it's more parent coaching. Um, it's teaching parents the skills to manage their child's tantrums or what's normal behavior and what's not, how to handle a tantrum, what to expect. Because if you don't understand your child's development, you can't respond appropriately. And they change very quickly. Toddlers are very different from infants, and preschoolers are very different. So those needs change. So I work with a lot of preschool and toddler parents also. And I love this book. It's a little bent. It's a little worse for the wear from me. This one, The Whole Brain Child by Daniel Siegel and Tina Payne Bryson. This book right here. This book is so great because it explains to parents, and it's a short read, so it's not a textbook, but it explains about how your child's brain is developing and what they call the upstairs brain, downstairs brain, left brain, right brain. All of those things come into play when we're talking about behavior. So if you understand how your child's brain develops and what is developmentally normal at your child's age, then you can respond appropriately. And it also gives you like strategies, 12 strategies that help you nurture your child's brain and your child's mind. So like not only do you learn about how your child's brain works, that's this stage of development, you also get like super practical strategies. Um, so this is a great book. I recommend this to like every parent, um, just so you can understand what's going on with your child's brain. Like, I'll say to toddler parents, I'll say, well, that's normal. Toddlers push back. So, parents will say to me, I don't understand why my, 3-year-old keeps getting out of bed and running down the hall. And I'm like, well, toddlers test boundaries. They do it like it's their job because it's developmentally normal for toddlers to test boundaries. We know they do it, but why do they do it? Why? Because their brains are developing and they're learning their own sense of self and independence and testing boundaries. They also want you as a parent. It might not seem like it when they're running down the hall and getting out of bed, but that child wants you to step in and hold the boundary. That child is looking for you to take the lead and take control of the situation and tell them what they need to do next. That it might seem like your kid wants total control and wants to run around and run the show, but they really don't. And if you understand your child's brain and how your child's brain is developing and working, then it's a little easier to respond when you know what's going on inside their little head. So those are my two favorites.
Thank you for that recommended books, Miss Phyllis. But before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in sixth season, abstract poetry in third season, and my book 101 review in sixth season as well, comedy 101 third season, and my food 101 in sixth season as well, geography 101, love letters, movie 101 review, music 101 fifth season, Science 101, Sex 101 in third season, and my baby podcast, Trivia 101, Law 101, Mental Health 101, Motivation 101, Entrepreneurship 101, and of course, my Bible Verses 101. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Miss Phyllis, I have a new a podcast coming called Coaching 101. I want you to be my guest on Coaching 101, which is will be published next month.
I would
So
love
yes, thank you for that. And does the need for a response to consistency vary dramatically with a child's innate temperament? How do you adjust your guidance for a highly sensitive child versus a more easy doing one?
Mm, that's a great question. Um, you know, everything that we do when I work with clients is really based on responsiveness, and it's based on your child's temperament and also the parent's temperament, right? Because we need to consider the emotional needs of the parent as well as the child. So we're looking at all of these things. And so I work with parents on a very custom response that feels comfortable to them. It's always important to respond consistently. Some children's temperament responds better to a more structured response, and some children need a more gradual, slower, more parent present response, to learning. So it is important to know your child's temperament. It's also important for parents to know their own temperament and know what they can be consistent with. And the and I always say to parents, I give them a choice of two training options when we're working together. And I always say to them, choose the one that feels like it aligns with your parenting style and that feels safe and comfortable to you. Because the one that feels safe and comfortable to you is the one that you will be consistent with. And that's how we're going to grow and see results.
Miss Phyllis King, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So can you please invite our listeners to support your advocacy, your business, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Absolutely. Thanks, Daniel. Well, I am available for one on one support if you are having trouble getting your little ones to sleep. I work with infants all the way up to age 8. You can find me at my website is www.beyondsleepsolutions.com. You can book a free call with me there and we can talk about what's going on. You can also give me a follow over on Instagram at Beyond Sleep Solutions.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Phyllis King because if you support her, for sure, more and more empowering sleep coaching will rise. So, Miss Phyllis, thank you so much for your time.
Daniel, thank you so much for having me. I love connecting with you and your audience.
Welcome, people. See you soon. Tune in, people. Coaching 101 coming this month. So, for sure, Miss Phyllis will be one of my guests. Welcome, people. See you soon.